trying to go at it without any fear. So for me, I showed up a day early before Richard Branson spoke, and I looked at what security was wearing for an outfit. I went down to the local Big and Tall. I bought the same outfit. The next day, I pretended like I was security, and I walked right backstage with a $20 bill wrapped around my business card. And I handed it to Richard Branson. And I said, "This is the first 20 we're going to make together." And Richard said, "Oh, brilliant, brilliant." And he gave me his email. And about a year later, I ended up on Necker because my business was successful and I was invited with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And I reminded him of that story. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I remember it." He goes, I said, "I was surprised you took my 20. He goes, "Well, first lesson on Necker, you don't get to be a billionaire without taking other people's money." So I tell that story just because I've always been that guy who not only I prepare for success and I expect success. I met the Dalai Lama. How did I meet the Dalai Lama? 8 months before he was about to speak, I ordered a scarf from Tibet, a Tibetan scarf that I knew he would want to bless. And I was the only one in an audience of 2,500 people that had a Tibetan scarf. I actually had 3 that I had bought, and I gave one to Sean Stevenson, who's in a little wheelchair, and he's passed away about a year ago now, or maybe a year and a half. But at the time, he was also at the event. And so the Dalai Lama had me wheel Sean right up on stage, and he blessed our scarves, and I got to meet the Dalai Lama. You've got to be bold, but you've also got to prepare for success and expect to have success. So sometimes miraculous things happen, and I'm prepared. I'm always prepared for whatever opportunity shows itself.
So let me ask you about this, because you said something really important. And the idea of being bold, preparing for success, and being willing to do those hard things is not something most people can do. So they're holding themselves back. So there's some kind of barrier. Have you always been like this, or is this a skill that you had to develop?
I think it started when I was bullied in junior high, to be honest. A negative sometimes, every negative creates a silver lining.
There's always a story like that. Every time I ask that question, there's a story like that somewhere.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I had my first touch of success as a paper boy. I won all these contests. Every year I'd be the #1 sales guy, so I would win the trip to Disney World, or I'd win the, once was a Red Sox game and you could go on the field to meet. We were supposed to meet Wade Boggs, but we met Bob Stanley instead. Oh, well. And Rich Gedman, the catcher, but Wade Boggs is the Hall of Famer. The other 2, nobody remembers. But anyway, I won the trip like every year, 3 years in a row. And it made me feel good, right? When so many negative things, when you go to school and every day when you go to walk home, you take the route through the woods to try to avoid 11 kids. My dad was a cop and arrested a bunch of these kids' dads. So I was always a target. It wasn't just one kid, it was like 11. And so you find things that start to make you feel like you're worthy of love. And I think you lean into those things at a young age. And so for me, I leaned into, hey, success feels pretty good. People respected what I was doing because I was #1, and so I kind of got that taste for it at an early age. And so when I got to high school, I actually moved schools. That's how bad the bullying was. But when I moved schools, first of all, the first kid that said boo to me, I tackled him and beat him up because I was like, I'm not gonna be bullied anymore. And then I got right in the gym. But then I had this mindset that, I started looking for things that I think made me feel better. And one of them was just success, and the other was music. And so I have a huge passion. I'm a songwriter. I almost say that I'm a songwriter first who dabbles. My side hustles, my being CEO of a couple of companies. So I write about 100 songs last year, and I'll probably write another 150 or so this year. And I'm starting to see some good success there too. But so I think it was, at an early age, you start to see some things that make you feel better, and you start to lean in that direction. When I was in college, I held 4 jobs at the same time. I was a night auditor at a hotel, and I umpired baseball games and officiated soccer games. Most people don't know, but those pay like $100 a game. And so I was making, I'd do 5-7 games a week, and I'd make $700 there. The night audit took me an hour, and I'd go right to sleep. And then I was an entrepreneur still. I was disc jockeying and DJing on the weekends and doing weddings. And so even as a youngster, I was always, or a college student, I was always a hustler. So but I just leaned into sales and marketing, even though I wanted to do music, because I could make money that way and support my family. And over the years, I just got better and better at selling and consulting, and ended up building my own call center. I know we're talking about my marketing company, but I own a call center with about 800 employees. And then I wrote the book, Hired to Quit, which became a bestseller in 5 categories. I started training my employees because nobody believed in me. This is one of the secrets to success as well. Because nobody believed in me, I made a decision early on in my life to believe in everybody. Now, what does that do for you when you're now, 50 years old, right? What that does for me is, in my little cell phone here, people I believed in when they were 20 and I've known for 30 years, well, some of those people are millionaires or billionaires. And I now happen to have, gosh, I would say I have at least 600 or 700 millionaires in my phone, about 10 billionaires, but I believed in them early. And of course, that's part of a secret to success, is respecting people. Even if they look like they're never going to achieve anything, some of those kids got bullied when they were younger. Some of those kids had issues that are going to drive them. And some of those kids are going to be millionaires. And if you believe in them early, when their friends and their family probably didn't believe in them, you're going to be someone that they want to have access to forever. And so that was one of my secrets is, when I was a kid, because people, and again, this goes back to bullying. How do you get successful? Sometimes it's not through the normal paths. For me, I just said, I don't want people to feel like I felt when nobody believed in me being a musician. So I'm just going to believe in people. So
Yeah, I don't know what the normal path means anymore. I wonder what the normal path means. I'm not sure there is I think there's my path, your path. Everybody has to find their own path. It's not about what's externally successful because you got, you did all the right things you're supposed to do. It's because you found yourself, which is what I'm curious about with you, because you were externally validated, which didn't have to happen. You may not have been externally validated. Did you have to dig in through a longer period of time, maybe where you weren't seeing that validation from the society?
Yeah, I mean, I remember being young, when I was in my 20s and trying to work with $1 million, big giant companies are like, you can't even grow hair on your face and you want to do $1 million deal with me. I remember those conversations. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I think I learned early on, I sold insurance door to door for W. Clement Stone and Combined Insurance. And one of the things they drill into is go where you fear the most. So I always had that mindset. So I built this big call center. We've got it for sale now for 20 million. And we've got people who want to buy our business. A lot of people right now in the call center space, because of the pandemic and things, the value of a call center has gone up, actually 6 or 7 on the multiple instead of 5. So we're like, okay, let's sell this. So I retired from my call center, and all I was going to do was write music. That was all I wanted to do. But I realized I had to brand myself. I had to brand Craig Handley as a musician, as a marketer. And I looked out, and a lot of you guys probably know this, but I looked for a company to, you want to dump content into a folder, have it edited, subtitled. You want to have it put in 5 different formats for Triller, TikTok, YouTube. You got to communicate on a lot of levels today if you're going to be popular, an influencer of any sort. And that was the average out of like 3 or 4 prices was like $7,500. Manage my communities, 5,000. Build up my TikTok. The quote was like 10,000. Because they have a method to build out TikTok, which is have other people, copy some of the things you're doing. There's a whole methodology around building on TikTok, but Instagram it was a different one. LinkedIn was 5,000. A lot of people have probably experienced these things. I was like, I'm not going to spend 25. I've always been a little bit frugal. Like I've never wanted to drive an expensive car. I'm happy with my Honda Accord hybrid. I mean, I've never been that guy. When I made 150,000, I was that guy. I bought the Rolex, I bought the $300 belt and the $500 shoes. And I'm like, yeah, I thought Tommy Bahama shirts were the biggest deal on the planet. I was walking around in my Tommy Bahama shirt, like, look at me, I'm so successful. See my Rolex. And it was kind of funny, but I kind of learned over the years that that's not who you want to be. You want to be a giver, not a taker. But yeah, this marketing company, I decided to build it on my own because I just always been somebody who believes in frugality, shoestring. And so I built it myself. And for 8 months, they did Craig Handley's social media. And then a friend of mine posted on Facebook, said, I wish I could find this service for under 20 grand. And as I was reading the post, every comment was following. And I'm like, all I did was write in that post, well, I built it, but it's not a business. I just built it for me. And 6 people messaged me out of that post, and all 6 of them offered me more money than I was spending. And I was like, well, maybe we'll try it. And, we tried it, and all 6 of them referred 3 or more people. And I guess we had learned some things because I had done my own work on making my book a bestseller. I had created the videos, I had set up the timing of the launch. And so I'm the one who made it a bestseller. So I just wanted to help other people. And I was doing some marketing consulting, getting like 10,000 a day or whatever. And I'm like, a lot of people, it's kind of like algebra, not everybody's good at it. And so I realized that more people than not didn't understand kind of some of the marketing stuff I was talking about, because for some people it's a foreign language.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we started to build this out and went from 6 clients to 18 to 36, a year and a half later, I have over 70 clients. We're billing out $1.5 million. My average client only pays around $5 grand a month instead of 20 grand a month. So they're all, the number one comment I get is, why don't you bill more? Which is, and someday I will. I mean, someday I'll, right now I'm so focused on execution for my clients that, so one client, he's a coach, and we got him 33 leads for clients who wanted him to coach them. And he called 13 of them, and he closed 2 out of those first 13 phone calls. We billed him for his plan. It was $7,000 for the month. And those 2 clients that we got him those 33 leads within 3 weeks. And those 2 clients brought in $150,000 in revenue. His phone call was, Craig, I wasn't ready for this level of success. He said, I've called 13 leads. I've closed 2 for 150. I'm going to close another. He said, why don't you bill me like 10% after I recoup my money? I said, maybe someday. And then he actually paid me $10,000 a month for November and December. And because he insisted, and he did close some more leads out of the additional ones, but all we did for November and December, he goes, I don't want you to give me any more leads, just do my social. He goes, I'm not ready yet. He goes, but I've never had this level of success. Nobody's ever met these expectations. So, and we get that really quite often. I've got so many testimonials from clients that have come in and worked with us, and purely through, I mean, I've been able to sit into my space where I love being creative. I sometimes will write a jingle for a brand that they're not expecting, and the jingle does 50,000 views overnight or whatever. And next thing you know, and then I combine call center with social media marketing, because I've owned call centers throughout the years, and I understand the philosophies of marketing from 30 years of meeting with guys. I mean, I've met with Robert Cialdini on 4 or 5 occasions and spent a lot of time with him. I've met Harvecker. I've met, all these different amazing salespeople that have written all the books, because I've been part of different groups and done a lot of different travel and networking. And so one of the psychologies is that people need 20 impressions to go from observer to buyer. And so what I did was, using call center experience, I said, okay, well, let's engage with people via digital door-to-door, so to speak, when anybody even likes one of those videos. So one of those viral songs I write that gets 50,000 views, anybody who likes it, comments, shares, whatever, we're engaging with them, saying, hey, thanks for liking our video. If you follow our brand, we offer amazing promotions. Next message might be, hey, we'd love to send you a free PDF. Get them into our mailing list. So when I look at marketing, when you're buying media, you're filling a cup of water, but you're holding your cup under a waterfall. There's a lot of customers that engage with your brand outside of the ones that buy. As a matter of fact, more customers engage with your brand. Like, it's like out of 100 people, maybe 10 will buy. What I try to do with social media marketing is, my goal, and I've been successful at this, is I want to fill 2 to 3 more cups over 6 months, simply through engagement and building human funnels, so to speak. So that business, I believe, can be $1 billion business. I've had conversations with Major League Baseball. I'm working with charities. I have like 6 or 7 NFT companies that have contacted me to do all their engagement. So I think that's a really fun business, and you should do it with your own brands. You don't have to hire me to do it. I mean, you guys can do it yourselves. But
I think that's an important, I think that's such an important point that you made around do it yourself as well. So I think there's definitely a space for agencies and for supporting companies. There's no question about it. What I learned for myself was I needed to figure it out in the trenches first. I needed to get a sense of my own voice and my own brand before I started bringing this out into other people. But one of the things you said, I thought was kind of interesting, which is some people can't get that. Do you think there's some people where marketing is going to continue to be a foreign language? Is it something anybody can learn how to do? Or is there some special, unique kind of?
You have to be on it every day. Instagram changes things every day. TikTok, the algorithm, the number of impressions you can, the number of conversations you can have. My team has to stay on it every day. To be honest, I don't even know what's going on today. I mean, I've got an amazing team of 50 people behind me now. And I work on the strategy aspect of it and let my team do all the execution. But by the way, back to the secret of success, one thing I've learned through this process, my company decided early on we were going to do a free audit. It cost me like $500 to do in real money, right? It's not, it's my real labor cost to get these audits done. And then we meet with a client and we ask a lot of questions about what success looks like. And then I give them a real strategy, which I believe is about $20,000 in value. Costs me really about maybe $1,000, $1,500 to put a strategy together for somebody, but I have no obligation for anybody to hire us, right? I give them the strategy and say, you can hire me, you can hire someone in the Philippines, you can do it in your own office and hire your daughter or some school kid to do it. What I've realized is that in life, success comes from, if you really picture us being in a matrix, and I'm a man of high faith, but not religion, right? I mean, I believe that there's a God or a Buddha, or maybe it's aliens, or maybe there's something, right? There's some energy, because whenever you focus your energy on something, it tends to surround you, it tends to happen for you. But I believe the secret to success is giving without any expectation of return. That's like the secret code in the matrix. And so when I give these strategies away, 50% of the people I give them to hire me, but I've become friends with the 50% that don't, and they tend to refer people to us, because just because someone doesn't hire me doesn't mean they don't like my brain or they don't like my strategies, don't believe in my company. And so I've learned that the best approach to life is to take everything that you've built and to give it to others, without any ego whatsoever. Give it humbly, without any expectation. And the world, the energy in this world, the energy that comes to you is just so incredible that you end up getting 10 times back what you push out. And so I think that if you want to talk about how I'm successful, again, I believed in people at a young age and I gave them everything I had. And I never worried about, oh, that's confidential, or don't steal my idea, or I just believed in people, and I gave them everything I had. And I think those are the number one and the number two secrets to all of the success I've been able to experience.
I think in this social media world too, people are competing against, if they do what you do, they're competing against people like you who are out there doing that kind of thing. How do you compete against someone who is being transparent in that way if you're not? It just seems like it would be impossible. I mean, I'm noticing this in every single industry, and there's this moment where I know everything's free. Every single thing I could possibly want to know how to do, I can find on YouTube, or somewhere. But then there's a certain point where it's like, am I really going to do this, or am I going to hire them? So I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to hire that specialist to help me with that thing.
When I met with Major League Baseball, the first thing they said to me was, that we're not going to sign an NDA. I understand. That we can take any idea you have and we can probably execute on our own. I understand. I said, I'm going to bet, number one, that you haven't thought of all these ideas, because I feel like I'm a bit of a unicorn. If you have, that's great. If you haven't, and I can share something new, if you decide to work with me, I'm happy with that. But if I help Major League Baseball in any way, I'm happy with my friendships and the respect that I'll gain from giving you guys ideas that you haven't thought of and teaching you how to execute around these ideas. I said, but in my mind, I think I'm enough of a unicorn that you might say, hey, let's keep this guy around. And we've had 4 meetings. They just finally got through the labor dispute where we're going to have a 5th meeting. And what they really love is the engagement. Actually, I approached them with a couple of ideas. One was for them to be their own record label. And I would bring together groups of songwriters to write walk-up songs for every Major League Baseball player. So they would own their own.
They do that did you know they do that in Japan?
I didn't know that.
They
No, I
do,
didn't know
yeah.
that. Yeah. But I was like, why don't we create our own walk-up records? And then what we'll do is we'll hire artists to create a painting of every player and create an NFT around every player. And the player's individual song will end up coming in under the 3. So it'll be a 3.5 creation of the art. And the song for that individual player will go underneath it to create an NFT. And then we would have 10 NFTs with every painting. So number 1 would be the sketch, the black and white. And then number 10 would be the full color. And the Reds, for example, offered to throw in suite tickets. And if they make the playoffs, you can go into the locker room and party with them after they win. And, you get to meet the owners and meet the player, of course, a meet and greet with the player if you buy their NFTs. And so they want me to integrate on, my idea was a record label with NFTs, but also to have the social media engagement to actually engage with the players and the fans, the sponsors and the fans, and Major League Baseball and the fans, and all that integration. And so they love the idea. I think I'll need 300 people just to help manage Major League Baseball social media communication. But the average team has 4% engagement. And my goal is to bring every team's engagement up by 500% so we can actually communicate more with our fans and create more value for the sponsors.
What's amazing about what you're saying is you're talking about building a company from the inside out. And when you build a company from the inside out, nobody can copy it. So every single thing that's out there is so easy to replicate. Like there's 5 million coaches that all do the same thing. But if someone builds their company from the inside out, you can't copy it. It's totally unique. What you do is totally unique to you because of the way you're doing it. And my contention is we all have to do that. It's not an option. We all have to do that. How do you free up that creativity? For me personally, it was a personal transformation journey I started over 10 years ago now. That allowed me to get all that bullshit out that's down there and be able, because it's gone, it's not gone, it's never gone, but I'm free of it. So now my creativity can come into place. And it sounds like that's where you're living every day. And that's what I mean by ability.
Yeah, I write 3 songs a week, and I do, a lot of marketing strategies every week. And I have, I still control a lot of my time, so I appreciate that. But I've got an amazing team. And you're right, it was all built kind of organically, because what a lot of people try to do when they build a social media team is hire one person. And that one person they think can do their Instagram and their TikTok but you almost need someone who's an expert in each one of those things. So I have one person that was kind of doing all those things, but then I have a friend of mine who runs a LinkedIn business. And I was like, well, let me train somebody to be an expert in LinkedIn. And so now I had an expert running my LinkedIn, and you really can't spend more than an hour to 2 hours on any one social media channel. And so because of the number of engagements that you are allowed to have before they start to get suspicious of your account or whatever, you have to be smart about what you're doing. And so I had to build up my team, and I started with a LinkedIn expert, and then I brought in an Instagram expert, and those people work on 5 or 6 accounts over the course of a day in order to provide a 40-hour work week. Now, you probably keep somebody busy for 40 hours, but are they going to be an expert in every channel? It'd be hard. I think it would be very difficult, especially some of the newer ones like TikTok, or there's platforms coming out every day. There's a new one called View It, which is full of influencers. There's just so many. I've even created, for example, I'm a big marketing guy, and I'm a music fan. I write my own songs. So I created a coin-based royalty-backed coin through TikTok, and we'll put a record out or a song out, and we'll find maybe someone with a few million followers who just does covers, and I'll make them a star. The way that I do it is I give them the song and the songwriters, and then we put a record out for $100,000 or 100,000 coins. Every coin, we put a value on the record of $100,000. Influencers bid to promote our product or our service. So an influencer might say, I want 5 coins to create a cover of your song. And if it's Teddy Swims, for example, I'm going to say, I'll give you 10 coins. But, but you base it on the number of followers, and it's a negotiation. If it's a dance group who's going to create the TikToks and the trillers and the dance moves, maybe they want 5 coins. But a hit song, a song in the top 50 makes $5 to $10 million. So that $100,000 base, those 5 coins that are worth $5,000 today are now worth 50 or 150, or maybe 500,000, as the song gains traction. And so I've been doing that with a whole bunch of marketing concepts. One of my clients just created a widget coin, and they take 5% of their royalties, and they're going to buy TV media too, but they say, we're going to share 5% of our royalties with influencers, and it's based on a coin-based value. And so influencers bid, so it's a air fryer. And so chefs, for example, say, I'll use your air fryer, and I'm going to create 5 healthy meals under $5 under 5 minutes. And we're going to, I'm going to, as a chef with my 2 million followers, I want 5 coins to do that for you over 5 days. And as the royalty revenues grow and the pot starts at, maybe they put a value of $100,000, it's based on the client's marketing plan. We kind of put an estimated value and negotiate with the influencers. As the royalties build, the value of their coin builds. And so my brain, from a marketing standpoint, I'm able to focus on being creative, to learn about blockchain, to learn about NFTs, right, to learn about all these crazy the metaverse 3 or whatever the hell it is. And I'm able to really focus in dreamland and build all these crazy schemes. And my clients get the benefit from the freedom that I'm able to have with learning and growing mentally.
So how do you organize all of those ideas? So you've got a lot of ideas coming up all of the time. How do you filter through those and bring them into more of a business system that's not overwhelming in your company?
Building a call center with 1,000 employees, I've had to manage and build operationally many different departments, right? They have to communicate flawlessly, otherwise it costs money. We've got to, we've got agents, they work 48 hours each, they get a certain number of breaks. We got to bill 40 hours to each client. And when that slides under, if we only bill for, maybe we only bill for 70% of the hours, well, that's over the course of a year, that's over $1 million in revenue I lose. So I've had to be really good with building processes, and getting the right people, who are excellent. I usually have 2 people on a phone call when I do a sales marketing call with somebody, 2 people, and all they do is take notes. Sometimes I even leave my body and I don't even remember the conversations, because you just get into a zone. And I've had so much experience that sometimes I just start looking at things and my brain just goes, and all of a sudden I'm like sitting over in the corner watching myself have these conversations.
Right. Yes, that's right.
I can't, and my soul looking down at my body can't hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know it's intelligent though, because when I hang up the phone calls, people are like, wow, Craig, that was such a great idea. I'm like, good, I'm glad my operations team was on to remember it.
Yeah,
so I think
let's talk about that a little bit. So I call that the observer. So when I started studying Buddhism and meditation, I was able to develop that skill. So I started to learn that skill, to be able to separate out and actually watch myself. And it's very painful at first, because you realize, wow, that was stupid. Like, you are such an asshole. Or I started, now I'm talking about myself. So I started realizing the things that I was doing that were actually super immature or kind of counterproductive. So I went through an internal, and still go through an internal struggle around self-awareness, where I've started to separate the observer, watch myself behave in the world, sometimes can't even stop myself, doing things and reacting emotionally. So it's a very complicated kind of relationship I have with that whole observer concept. Are you talking about something different? Or
No,
are you talking about what I'm talking about?
No, it's that, yeah, it's that where you actually leave your body. I've done, when I use a phone agent, I used to be able to picture myself sitting next to the person on the other side of the phone. So I was taking their order, but I was an assistant buyer. I wasn't selling them anything. I was actually helping them through the process of understanding my product and my service. And I would literally visualize myself, almost like a phantom coming through the phone lines, Yeah. And I could literally see their body, whether they were back like this, or whether they were into the call, or I could feel their energy and knew when they were ready to buy, just intuitively. And so I think a lot of it is gifts that you can't really explain, but they've been honed throughout the years. I've never fell back on, I've never been afraid to dive in and study something and become an expert at it. Of course, being an expert means you put 10,000 hours into something, right? So I've never been a guy who's afraid to dive in and learn. You know, I mean, when I wanted to write hit songs, we did a marketing project for Berkeley where we marketed their hit songs deconstructed class during the pandemic, and I got access to the files. I wrote my own book as to how to write a hit song and the components. It's like copywriting, right? What are the components that have to be in a hit song? Number one, it has to be conversational. If most people, 99% of the world writes a poem or a song, they write to rhyme. That's why it's not good, right? You can't just write a line to rhyme with another line. It's got to be conversational. So when you hear other songwriters and you go into groups, that's one of the biggest mistakes they made is they, oh, let's see, I saw her reflection in a spoon through the light of the moon. I'm like, no, that's not a good line. I wouldn't sit down on a porch stoop having a lemonade and say, you know, I knew I loved her when I saw a reflection in a spoon by the light of the moon. That's not conversational. You wouldn't say it. Don't put it in your music, right? Contrast psychologically. It's funny how much in this world is psychological. So in order to write good copy, you have to basically split the brain down the middle, the analytical side and the creative side. So in music, the way that you do that is you write contrast into every other line of your song. I mean, if you listen to a Taylor Swift song, when she's feeling low, she gets high. You know, when she wants to go slow, she's got to rush it. You know, I mean, everything is contrast in music. And I tend to be able to, now I've got second nature for me to, you know, when you're into the fire because your heart's cold, you know, when you want to walk into the fire because your heart feels cold, that's a great line. You know, so you have to write contrast. And then the third secret is emotional visuals. Taylor Swift would never say he was wearing pants. She'd say he was wearing green corduroys or white painter's pants, or it would be a Robert Graham button-down shirt. She'd never say he wore a shirt, you know? And so you start to dive into things to become an expert in your craft if you care about it. And so for me, I like to know enough about it to be able to talk about it and be an expert, but then I like to hire people that work for me that are even bigger on the expert side.
You know, you said something really interesting. I just happen to have this book right here. Have you seen this book, Range?
I haven't, no.
So why generalists triumph in a specialized
It's not
world.
in the.
So we need somebody to mute there. So the idea is actually what I think you've discovered, which is we're in a world where people who have the ability to have range have built range-like skills. So that idea of being an observer, you can apply that in any industry across any kind of a situation. So it's about how do you learn something? So it's not really about being an expert in that thing. He's kind of talking about the limitation of that.
Yeah, and I
more about the ability to learn everything that you want to learn.
I always talk to three companies, regardless of whether I love the first company or not. I always talk to three companies to get three different approaches too for everything that I want to learn. So, and in the NFT space, I've talked to 6 companies, you know, and I've talked to a bunch of blockchains. So I try to learn from everybody. And I think keeping the mindset of being like a young learner, I think no matter how old you are, if your mind is still fresh and the fact that you feel like you're a young learner, then the world continues to bring you amazing, you know, revelations. I thought I was having a stroke one day because I was all dizzy and my arms were numb, and I went to the hospital and said, I'm having a stroke. And they were like, no, you're not. I said, what do you mean? I feel like and I literally was having this, I don't know what it was, but I think the world was opening something new up for me in my brain. And I was able to slow down time and literally stop time. I was driving my car. They let me go in 30 minutes. It felt like I was there for 8 hours. And so I was like driving my car to the beach, but I could actually, it was more like I felt like I was more in a submarine in a fish tank, you know, and I could see the cars and the raindrops hitting the windshield and the lightning hitting the mountain, and I could stop everything around me. And it was the weirdest feeling in the world. Like I felt safe, like I knew I wasn't getting in an accident because I literally had stopped everything around me. And now I can go into a meditative state and I can slow time down and I can write 3 songs in an afternoon. And so there's a lot of abilities that I think we have that we don't know about yet. And I
Yeah.
really felt like I could close that box up or leave it open. I felt like I was being given a gift, and I
Yes.
chose to leave it open and to explore it.
Yeah. And I think that you chose to leave it open. That didn't just automatically happen to you. You
I knew it
chose,
was a choice. Yeah, I
you
knew it
made
was
a
a choice.
choice to leave it open. So the question to me goes to is how does someone who is not experiencing or is not used to the kinds of things that you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've experienced a lot of these things all the time, and I lean into them despite the fear. And I'll introduce an idea that anybody can do right away. I think it is when you feel a charge, when you feel an emotional catalyst of any kind, just ask yourself, wonder what that is. Wonder what that is. And you feel yourself resisting, instead of resisting, just say, maybe I won't resist this one. Because this stuff's there.
Yeah.
It's not some big secret. It's all there for
I call it
everybody.
the tap. I call it the tap. Like I said, whether it's an alien or God or Buddha, whatever you believe in, I don't want to argue about, religion or anything, because it's obvious there's something,
Mhm.
right? There's some sort of
Yeah.
spiritual energy. So who knows what it is? Everybody's allowed to believe what they want to believe. But I always, when I feel that tap, I lead into it,
Lean
right?
into the
I always lead into
yeah.
it. And so I
Lean into
believe
the
that
tap.
in life there's fear and there's faith. And either you live with fear or you live with faith. And faith means not being afraid to lean into it and believing that there's a higher power that's going to catch you if you fall. And
Mm.
that's where I think the big difference is. I think, and again, who the heck knows, but maybe we've all been here over and over again. Maybe some of us are 1,000 years old and some of us are 5,000 years old. So I look at people all the same way. Getting upset with somebody is akin to really being upset with a baby for soiling their diaper. You never know how long someone has
Well,
been
if you look at
walking
like
through
Carl
this earth.
Jung, if you look at
Yeah,
Carl Jung talks about it as a template that already exists.
yeah,
So this stuff is already done. We're just seeing it. We're like unraveling it or not, but it's already there.
yeah.
So you can either
But
resist it
for
or you can lean in
but
and
for me,
unravel it.
I try to help people that might be younger than me spiritually by explaining to them that you got to lean into your fear, lean into your faith. Maybe they could skip a few lifetimes, and get to where they need to go. But it's really, look, have I been perfect? Heck no. But have I gone after everything I've ever wanted? Jumping out, I was the 85th civilian to jump out of an airplane from that high, 33,000 feet. I mean, I've decided to lean into all these things that I fear, including going where you fear the most. So music, why would you go through the normal channels? Most people, again, science behind a lot of this, the data and the analytics, 5% of new music today makes it out as far as getting out there in the world, because there's music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. There's other music out there, and a lot of us listen to our favorite 60s channel, our favorite 70s channel, or I still love to listen to a good Boston tune, or all these old records that I grew up with. So new music has a harder and harder time cracking through. Why would I go through the normal channels of hiring a record label to try to support me? I contacted a bunch of movie directors and offered them 20% of my master. With a record label, they own 100% of the master. So I said, I'll give you 20% of my master to put my songs in your sync. As a matter of fact, if you give me the script, I'll actually write songs that are very relevant to the storyline that you've created. And so I had so many directors hand me their scripts and take 20%, thinking they're going to win a Grammy with their Oscar, that I've got other writers that I've brought opportunities to help build my network. Again, give. And so I said, well, hey, we're writing a song for this TV show. I need writers for it. Why don't we get 3 different versions of the song? We'll pick one of 3, to be, so you got a 30% chance of getting your song in sync. But I am the line now. I'm not in line through a record label or through a sync agency. I'm the guy controlling the line. And as a result, Jonathan Sanger, who runs Brand Entertainment, but he used to run Tom Cruise's company, Cruise Wagner, and did all the Mission Impossible movies and Elephant Man. He hired me to be his chief marketing officer, which is, I don't really do a lot. I make a little bit of money, and they gave me a little bit of ownership in their TV channel network. But now I have an opportunity to bring brands to television. I work with stem cell doctors. I've got a stem cell doctor that has he has 27 patents he'd love to file, if not for the fact that his business partner was killed 3 days after filing the first patent for a cure for HIV using stem cells. But he's actually created brain stem cells. He's trying to get with Elon Musk to have it injected right into the Neuralink to grow brain cells, but he's helped kids with Down syndrome speak to their families within 3 to 4 weeks after injecting these brain cells into their brain. He's got heart stem cells, myositis cells or whatever, but what would big pharma do if that came out, right? You could actually heal somebody's heart instead of making them take losartan every day and all these other drugs, right? And so he's got a liver product, and his clinics, the only way you meet him is through word of mouth, and you have to know where his clinics are and he'll treat you for those things. But I've been able to create these amazing relationships with people through marketing by helping and supporting I never had any expectation of return, but the stem cell guys gave me 300 million stem cells a few weeks ago because I had some inflammation in my body from having COVID and the vaccine and stuff. So they're like, here's 300 million stem cells, $70,000 worth of stem cells that I got basically at their cost because I'm doing marketing for them and they like what I'm doing. So I've been able to, been able to use my marketing skills to help a lot of people, including myself.
So I could talk to you about this stuff all day. It's what I think about all day long. So it's very exciting to have this conversation, but I got to give everybody the opportunity to kind of ask some questions, sort of weigh in here. So let me take a look at, there's a lot of stuff in the chat, but I don't know if there's questions in here. So if anybody has
I did see one where someone said I'm the type of guy that intentionally sends the elevator down to the bottom floor to help other people. I'm also the type of guy that will push all of the buttons on the elevator too. So I'm both those guys. So I thought that was funny. I was like, actually, I'm kind of the guy too that might get in the elevator and just push everything. So yeah, I'm both those guys.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. One thing I want to introduce is I was not the type of person who lived in this open way for most of my life. So I would say the opposite. I was very closed off, didn't know it, very unconscious, despite the fact I thought I was, because I'd done different kinds of therapy and done stuff like this, but I really wasn't. And I started a personal development process about 10 years ago where I started to open myself up to this kind of thing. And my insight about it from doing it is anybody can do this because you don't have to do a lot. You just have to do a little bit. You just have to do a little bit different every day. You have to do a little bit different of everything you're doing. And it's enough to start to make that change, to live in a more open way. So no questions here, huh? Okay. Why don't we?
I've scared them all.
Oh, sorry.
Jeff? Hey, Jeff and then Susan? Or no, Izzy. Yeah, go ahead, Izzy. Then
yeah. Sorry, Larry, too.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it's about it's insane to do the same and expect different results. But on the other hand, like creativity solves the problem. Repetition makes it perfect, gives the quality. So you know, sometimes we have to wait for this gratitude for the outcome to just get into the habit of doing something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just put it in the chat, my friend BJ Fogg does a book called Tiny Habits. And I think it's a really good strategy to make minor changes. But if you make enough minor changes over the course of a year, it's a major change. I use that in everything that I do. There's a quote by W. Clement Stone. It's called "Little hinges swing big doors." And if you look at your door, you'll notice that there are usually 2 to 3 little hinges and they swing that big door. So when I'm writing a sales script, for example, personalize and disarm in the greeting, for me, that's a 5 to 7% lift in close rate. When you build, you know, that personalization, when you ask neat questions, that's, if you learn this rebuttal, that's a 1 to 2% lift in your close rate. So for me, I always look at all the little things that you can do. Like in my records, if I want my song to be a hit, do I have all these components in my record? Because every time I add more of it, it gives me that 1 to 2% increase in opportunity. Same thing with diet and exercise. You know, you don't have to go out there to the gym and hit it hard every day, but can you get a little bit more done today than you did yesterday? Can you walk a little bit further today than you did yesterday? What are the tiny habits you can change? I don't want to be a vegetarian, but can I add more vegetarian food to my diet on a daily basis? Yeah, if I do a little at a time, and I don't feel like I'm trying to make major, I can't go from somebody who eats chicken and beef to someone who doesn't overnight. At least I know some people can, but for me, I just feel like I'd be miserable. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a tiny change, and I'm going to be vegetarian 2 days a week to start, because that's probably going to be healthier for my body and things like that. So let's do 2 days a week. And
These are all
maybe I can
business
add a
skills.
third day.
These are
Well,
business
same thing.
skills.
Meditation. I try to meditate twice a day. Am I successful all the time? No, but do I build it as a habit and try to improve upon it week over week? I do. I stopped drinking anything but water and unsweetened sparkling water, and haven't had beer, haven't had a soda, haven't had anything outside of those two things in my body since October of last year. And it took time to get there. I went from a little bit of sugar to buying all these stupid zero drinks, which don't have sugar in them, to eliminating those one at a time, to the point where I was like, okay, I'm just going to drink water. And because as I get older, I love my life. I don't want to go anywhere. So I'm like, what's my best opportunity to keep my health and to keep my energy? And so I learned about how to do that, and made tiny habit changes day after day to get better.
Well, let me go to Jeff. Jeff, did you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, just a comment, actually. I don't feel like I need to ask a question, because I feel like you talk about anything under the sun all day long without anybody asking you anything. You are just very passionate and energetic, and I think that's really inspirational. You got your hand in all these different things, and you know almost everything about all of them, and you love all of it. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think life, I want to be crawling to the pearly gates going, woohoo, what a ride. That's the only thing I want to accomplish. By the time my time is done, I just want to know that I did everything that I could to help other people, support them in their dreams and their goals and everything I wanted. And really that I've made an attempt to accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish in my lifetime.
Well, you're certainly communicating the energy today.
Thank you.
And the other is, I needed
Susan, did you have a question or a comment?
Well, you are contagious. You're like, no words can really, put you all together there. But I hold you as chocolate ice cream. Everybody wants a little, a spoonful of Craig, will really light up their day and their life. I can certainly relate to being with the Dalai Lama, and certainly relate to being the observer, having received downloads and being connected, and to be in the natural state of flow, and to be so thankful that we are all tapped, and we just don't, and we will be continuously tapped, and have so many opportunities throughout every day to make our own lives easier, so that it's easier to give, because that is our natural state, is joy and giving. And in doing that, we fulfill our purpose. So I really want to thank you so much for articulating this, that no one has ever put it so succinctly, and to see you be the example of that in your own life, and what you've contributed to so many other people. I really thank you for sharing this. Really.
Thanks, Susan. That's great. So we've got a couple of minutes. So I'm going to do breakout rooms for 30 minutes. So anybody who would like to stick around, Craig, if you have a hard stop, feel free. I know
I'll stick around. I sent the text and pushed my 9 o'clock back just in case.
Oh,
so
good.
we're
Okay.
good. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I was available for you. And
what I'll do is
one of the things you said earlier, I thought of too, and you mentioned, you watching yourself making bad comments. I did the same thing, so I hired a comedian. So because I thought I was saying funny things at one point, and I realized that maybe only half of it was funny. So I hired a comedian to help me with my speeches and my presentations. So it's all about ongoing growth.
I think that's a really interesting comment. So what I'm doing is I'm leaning into every single thing myself. So I'm with my new business, with my other business, I've got somebody running it for me. With this business, I'm leaning into every single thing to figure it out for myself. But when I see that repetitive pattern of, oh, that's not quite right, I'm going and doing the uncomfortable thing. And that includes getting help sometimes. And a lot of it I've noticed is around presentation kind of stuff. So when I started doing TikTok videos, I thought, I really don't want to do this.
Mm.
I really don't want to do this. So I'm doing it. And then I joined a group of very improv comedian oriented to help me figure out how to do it. And that is not the kind of thing that I'm comfortable with. But now I love it. I'm having a great time.
Comedy's its own animal. You can't miss a line or you lose the whole joke, right? It's harder than speaking. It's one of the hardest things I've ever did, was because the timing of everything, it's got to be punchline, 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 punchline. And if you forget one, then your whole routine can fall off. So it's very stressful, but it was very exhilarating. And I enjoyed, really the thing is you make fun of yourself. The more you make fun of yourself, the more people laugh at you. So it's like, oh, so I just did make fun of myself. Great. Okay. I can do that.
So I'm going to open up some breakout rooms here. And if everyone who wants to stay could come on camera. And if you don't want to stay, it's probably good to drop off now. And I want to thank you for coming, and thank you, Craig, for doing this. It's fantastic. I'm really excited that you were willing to take some time to do it. I know you've got a lot going on. So thank you for that.
Always want to make time to help other people. I always will.
So what I'd suggest first, if you want to kind of run your own thing and you're in a room with somebody, just do whatever you want. So there's no rules or anything. But one suggestion is when you're talking to somebody, and I'll put this in the chat. The first question of the other person is, what are you focused on? That way you get to somebody's priority, what they care about. All right, that's not ahead. What are you focused on? The second question is, where are you going and why? What's that destination? And then the third question is, how are you getting there? So that gets to what kind of services you're buying, where are you going, what kind of events. You can start trading sort of ideas. And then 4, what obstacles, I'm putting this down here. What obstacles are you struggling with? I will tell you, for me, this is a really good way, not only to get clients that can lead to business, but you don't want to approach it that way, but to really get a deep insight into building a relationship with somebody, because you're going to know where they're coming from when you work through those questions. So it's a conversation starter, if that's helpful. So let me get I'll do the breakout rooms here. Stop.